No, it's Jimmy. Blah, blah, blah. Good day, one and all. It's Christmas Eve, 2025. Just before Christmas, we've got an update on all things Wisła Kraków. As you would expect, this is Wisła Kraków. Plenty going on. Before we get into it, please hit that subscribe button, ping that notifications bell, and if you can give us a thumbs up, that'd be superb. I do need more subscribers. The Polish Ekstraklasa, the Premier League, have said they will do a collaboration with us. If we can get a bigger platform, the collaboration will mean we can live stream all of the Polish Premier League matches here live on Catch It Live First. So please hit that subscribe button. It really will help me out and the channel. Right, let's get into it. We can start off by saying goodbye to Lasiki. He's moved on to Tychy after his contract, which was due to end this month. It was not renewed. His choice, I think. I'm pretty sure that he knows he was dropping down in the pecking order with Grujic performing well and Uryga on the way to a return after a long-term injury. So with age not on his side, it's no surprise to me anyway that he chose to leave. You know, he served Wisła well and scoring the equalising goal in what turned out to be his last game against LKS at Łódź before the winter break. Well, that was a fitting end to his time with the White Star. So all I can say is all the best for the future. Hopefully you can do us a favour near you're at Tychy. Help take some points from our rivals. That'd be a good way for you to pay us back. Not that you need to, but you know what I mean. So this move was not, I don't think it was in Wisła's plans. Not for the rest of this season, anyway. And here's why. According to other reports, Wisła, we could be losing another defender. Wieczysta Kraków, good team in the Betclic 1. Struggled the last few games, but they are a good team. They're being strongly linked and are pushing, for the services of Joseph Colley. And they would hope to get the transfer done in this winter break. The newly promoted side is currently the favourites to sign Joseph Colley. Now, Kazimierz Moskal, once Wisła's coach, before Mariusz Jop, he knows Joseph Colley well. And he wants to fight for promotion to the Ekstraklasa this season. But he's aware that his Wieczysta defence, it lacks a little bit of quality. Strengthening it with the 26-year-old Joseph Colley, it would be a real interesting move. Now, I've got to ask myself, would the player, would he want to go? I mean, Colley, he was a pillar of Wisła's defence. But this season, it's not been a success for him. He clearly lost out on a starting spot. Now, this is according to a report. He clearly lost out on a starting spot, making just 3 appearances in the Polish Cup. He never made the bench in the league. Well, that's not quite true. Mariusz Jop prefers to rely on other players, although he has often spoken positively about Colley, who has endured the rigours of competition and raised his level in training. His contract with Wisła runs until the end of the season and includes an option to extend. Well, hang on a minute. Reading that report, one would think that Colley is just a squad player at Wisła. And because he's not playing well, he can't get on the bench in league matches, and he can only get in the cup squad. Well, now we're out of the cup, let's just sell him. Well, no, not so fast. The reason that Joseph Colley has not been starting from the beginning of the season is because he's returning from a long-term injury, which ruled him out of the 24-25 season. When he ruptured his Achilles, we watched it live. We did the live stream. He ruptured his Achilles tendon in a European qualifying match away in Vienna back in August. Can't remember the exact date, but it was August 2024. He needed surgery, and his recovery, his downtime was 9 months. You know, then there's the rehab and the getting that match fitness back. So the report that Mariusz Shot prefers others, yeah, it's true, but there's a damn good reason why, and it's not because he doesn't think Colley is up to the task. He can and has this season also provided cover at fullback on either side, so he's also a versatile and a huge asset to Wisła. Wisła's initial plan for the winter included parting ways with Joseph Colley because they thought Lasiki was going to remain with the team. Now that's not the case. It appears Wisła are nervous of selling Joseph Colley. I mean, would it leave them light of numbers, number of central defenders? Well, the simple answer is yeah. If you lose 2 central defenders and you only have Biedrzycki, Grudzic and Kutwa available, then you do run the risk if any of them were to get injured, or Biedrzycki, we know he likes he's not been too bad this season, but we know he likes a red card, so it could leave you a little bit short. I know that Alan Uryga, club captain, he's on the comeback trail, but he won't be playing competitive football until the spring. Mikulec, he's also expected to return at a similar time after he had that horrendous leg break in the final playoff game of last season. So we do have players who could cover if needed, but it's not ideal for a team that's pushing hard for promotion into the Ekstraklasa. The other detail I don't have is what's the fee involved. And this is the only reason I think Wisła were prepared to sell Joseph Colley in the first place. He is still young. He's in his mid-20s. And his pedigree, well, he was at Chelsea, in the under-21. So you put that on your CV and it goes a long way. Could the money force this deal through? And Wisła would be prepared to take the gamble. I've always said, mainly when talking about the sale of Angel Ridado, that if the fee is big enough, then the player leaves. So at the moment, I guess it's a case of watch this space, and let's not forget, does the player himself want to leave? My guess is if the plan all along was for Joseph Colley, for Wisła to get rid of Joseph Colley in the winter break, then I think he probably would go. But I don't think he'll be disappointed if a deal doesn't come through, and he does stay here. Wieczysta Kraków, what's the owner like of that club? He's a little bit eccentric, likes to run the team. How will Joseph Colley get on with Moscow, who he knows? So there's all these dynamics going on at the moment. I think if Wisła got offered enough money, they probably would take the gamble. But is it a risk? Yeah, it certainly is a risk. You get an injury to Kutwa, you get an injury to Biedrzycki or Grudzic, you're looking at, hopefully it wouldn't be a serious injury, but even if they're out for 3 or 4 weeks, a lot of games played in 3 or 4 weeks. So, you may be looking at somebody dropping in there who would drop into centre-half, who could play the course, Carbor Bella Park could, Igbekeem could, you know, but it is taking a risk. But money always talks. So watch this space and we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. Right, moving on. As I briefly mentioned, Wisła Kraków has been without Alan Uryga and Mikulec since the start of this season. Both are expected to return to action in the sparring matches. That's according to Mariusz Jopp. Now, in the same article, it also states the following. Now is the time for personnel changes and the departure of players dissatisfied with the situation within the team. Igor Lasiki has already left, as we've mentioned, not renewing his expiring contract and will continue his career at Tychy. The futures of players like Joseph Colley, who we've just mentioned, and Ervin Omic remain in question. Now, I've seen rumours about Omic going on loan to Tychy or Ruka Horzov, and I find myself asking why. We're not blessed with an infinite number of central midfield players, and when Omic has played, he's done okay. In my view, he would be in this team before Ertlthaler. But more about that in a moment. I could understand if Wisła wanted to loan out the youngster Staszak. You know, why he grows a bit, a bit stronger and gets a bit of experience under his belt. He needs to fill out a little bit. But Omic, I just don't get that. I do understand that Wisła are looking to send Suki Nikaj out on loan to Odra Opole. He's just, and I don't know the reason, for whatever reason, he's just not performing. And he can't say that he's not been given ample opportunity. I mean, Mariusz Jopp last season, he stuck with Suki Nikaj. He's given him chances this season. It's just not worked out. He's given him a spell in Wisła's second team, trying to get some confidence for the young lad, and it just doesn't seem to be working. So maybe if they can offload his wage bill for the rest of the season, maybe try and play himself back into a little bit of form at Odra Opole, could be a good move. So we'll see what happens with that. But Omic, I just don't understand that, whether it's just paper talk or whether there is something behind it. But I'd be really surprised if we let Omic go. I mean, blimey, he's come from Juventus. So, no, I'm not having that one, I'm sorry. Right, another image for you. Earlier this season, you might remember I reported the following. Wisła Kraków has received an offer for Krzyżanowski. Banik Ostrava from the Czech Republic is strongly interested in him, but the White Star is aiming to retain the Polish youth international. Well, we did retain Krzyżanowski, and he's signed another contract, and it keeps him at the club until 2027, the summer. Yeah, the summer of 2027. However, this article on the 15th of December has appeared. It's another one, again, about Krzyżanowski and his move, or potential move, to Banik Ostrava. What's up with Krzyżanowski? Important information about Wisła's talent. It goes on to say how well Wisła are doing. And then we get this. Of course, the winter transfer window will play a role, although a major shake-up at the Raport is unlikely. As we've written, Wisła has determined its priority when it comes to strengthening its attack, though this mission won't be easy. Now, you have to remember that I'm translating this, so sometimes things they get confused a little bit. Speaking of transfer news, it was reported that some time ago, Krzyżanowski, one of Wisła's biggest talents, was being targeted by a Czech club. Shortly afterward, it turned out that the target was Banik Ostrava. I mean, to be honest, I reported on that, and it was one of the worst kept secrets. But here is the update. The Czechs would be willing to pay nearly €800,000 for the player, plus bonuses. And at one point, it seemed the deal was finally on the table. The latest information suggests that the most likely scenario is that the player will remain at the club. That's Wisła. The player himself would like to try playing in the Ekstraklasa with the White Star. Well, he has a contract until the summer of 2027 now, with options. His old contract until the summer of 26, that's scratched. And he was talking about him playing a certain number of minutes and matches, and then they'd extend his contract by a year. But as we know, his new contract already lasts until the summer of 2027, with no obligation to play any, in the spring, and you've got to play so many matches and that, as they do with youngsters sometimes. All that is gone. He's got a full-on contract until 2027. The new contract will also include the option to extend it for another 12 months, so until June 2028. So the club want the player, and the player wants to stay. He's already said he wants to stay with Wisła and play in the Ekstraklasa. But this offer from Banik Ostrava is still on the table, I presume, and that's why the reports are still coming out. And if they really want Krzyżanowski, just how high are they prepared to go with their offers before one of two things happens? Wisła can't turn down the offer and the player leaves, or Banik Ostrava finally walk away from trying to sign Krzyżanowski due to Wisła's valuation being too high, and they just think, it's not going to happen and we're not going to pay whatever amount of money. So it's one of them two things, but something's going to have to give on this. Which it'll be, I'm not too sure. And regardless of the new contract, that Wisła are giving Krzyżanowski, and the fact that they're expecting to get promoted to the Ekstraklasa, there will be a fee or a valuation that Wisła will be prepared to take. I just hope it doesn't unsettle Krzyżanowski. I mean, hopefully he's got good people around him, and they're going to give him some sound advice, which is stay at Wisła Kraków. He's only a youngster, isn't he? So hopefully it's not going to unsettle him and turn his head. I don't think it will. He doesn't seem that kind of player or that kind of personality, but you never know. So, Ertlthaler, as I mentioned earlier, let's just get you an image up. Oh, what can I say? The headline reads, Wisła Kraków hit the jackpot. These transfers put them in the lead. Wisła Kraków is wintering at the top of the table and is well on its way to finally winning promotion back to the Ekstraklasa. The excellent work of Mariusz Jopp and his coaching staff is, of course, a fact. Although it must be admitted that the football department also performed admirably this time, significantly strengthening the squad during the summer transfer window. Fans feared after the departures of, I was one of those fans, after the departures of players like Angel Baina, David Sot, Marko Poltanovic and Zwolinski. But it quickly became clear that the replacements were even better. The signings of Ertlthaler, Lelieveld, Grudzic almost immediately became among the top moves in the league this summer. In previous seasons, Wisła had a history of transfer blunders. The club approached this summer transfer window differently, as Jarosław Królewski has repeatedly stated. A wish list was compiled and a consistent effort was made to bring in players who were truly desirable. This led to the additions of Julius Ertlthaler, Julian Lelieveld, Dario Grudzic, and later Omic and Marko Boszic. Wisła's best summer move is undoubtedly Ertlthaler. This is not me saying it. This is the report. Wisła's best summer move is undoubtedly Ertlthaler, who immediately became a key player in the team. He had a huge impact on Marius Jop's team style and the pace of play. Previously, the White Stars' main problem was a slow pace of play, which prevented them from surprising defensively minded opponents. The Austrian, in particular, shone at the start of the season and contributed significantly to strong victories over Śląsk Wrocław and LKS Łódź. Okay, I can agree. Ertlthaler played well in the first 4 or 5 matches, and he massively overperformed and exceeded certainly my expectations. I've openly and repeatedly, a geezer, he must get sick of me saying it in live chat, I have openly and repeatedly said, even when he was playing well at the start of this season, at the start of this campaign, that he is just an average player who can get the ball and pass it on. Nothing fancy. I mean, that is his game. I've seen him when he was at Tychy, and that's all he did, just a steady player, nothing special. He doesn't, do nothing fancy with the ball. Everything he touched at the start of this season, it came off for him. The blind passes around the corner were finding, I did a video about him, they were finding the player, and it looked fantastic. And the through balls, they were all hitting the mark. It was never going to last, though. Eventually, your luck runs out. And it's run out for him now, that luck. Since them opening games, when Wisła were blowing teams apart and we were scoring for fun, Ertlthaler, in my view, he's been shocking. He hasn't even been good at doing the basics, which he was doing at Tychy. Which is what he does. That is his game. He gives the ball away. His passes are not accurate, or they get intercepted. His aerial ability is not good. Okay, he can't help the fact that he's not 6'5", but he gets muscled off the ball too easily, and teams target his stature. Just look at the last game when we played LKS. They bullied Ertlthaler. A couple of hefty challenges early on, and that's all it took, and he did nothing, in the game. He looks to me like he's lost confidence. Just simply breaking out of defence with the ball at his feet and under no pressure from the opposition whatsoever. He had acres of space in front of him, and he just lost control of the ball, and it ended up like 15 yards in front of him, and he gave the ball away, lost possession, and the rest is history. It's just, anyone can have a loose touch. I'm not saying that, or they can make a mistake, but it happens too often. His free kicks and corners, they're just poor. Just look at our statistics, from corners or set pieces. They don't tie in with where we are in the league. Teams are working Ertlthaler and Wisła's style of play out, and it needs to change. Or the second half of this season, it's going to be tough. Lelyeveld, Geiger, Grudzic, they also deserve a mention amongst Wisła's successful signings. This is the report saying all three formed the backbone of the defence at the end of the season, elevating it to a higher level. What it means is, something's stuck on my lip. What it means at the end of the season, it means that we're now at the mid-season break, so that's what it means. At the end of the season, elevating it to a higher level. Grudzic outperformed Mariusz Kutwa over the course of the first part of the season, and Geiger's performance led to Jop dropping Krzyżanowski. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Geiger plays at right back and Krzyżanowski plays on the left. Forgive me for ignoring that bit of reporting. And that's nothing to do with translation. That's just lazy reporting or someone's had a brain fade there. The two players don't interact on the pitch. They're on opposite sides. So I don't know what they're talking about there. Fans certainly expected more from Irvin Omic and Marko Boszic. The latter missed some time due to health issues and only showed his strength in the recent match against Stal Mielec. Absolute nonsense. I think I give Marko Boszic the last 4 games. I think I gave him man of the match out of 2 of them, maybe even 3. So not a good reporting, or not reporting that I agree on anyway. Everybody's got opinions, so maybe that's what it is. But when you're comparing 2 players, one took the other out of the team and they play on the opposite sides of the field, there's something gone amiss there. Omic, on the other hand, has been a reserve player so far, as Duda, Igbakim and Carbo have performed better than him. Well, in fairness, Omic also had an injury to overcome, so he hasn't yet really had a run in the team. And I'll be amazed, shocked, and absolutely raging, in fact, if Omic does get sent out on loan. And Boszic, for me, has performed really well down that left-hand side. And mark my words, he will become one of the first names on the team sheet very soon. That puts Duarte under some pressure. And Ertlthaler, who has also been sent out to play on the left at times, that left midfield stroke wing position will become Bozic's. Now, I do agree with Lelyveld, Geiger and Grujic. You're all getting positive mentions. But it seems like they're an afterthought after the gushing, it's gushing reporting about Ertlthaler. I don't get it. There isn't a mention of Ardit Nikaj either. And I'm not shocked, as we've hardly seen him this season. He's not been given a fair chance to prove what he can do. On a consistent basis. He keeps getting bit parts to play or a cameo at the end of the game. In my view, I would play him up front with Radado, and Ertlthaler could maybe come on in the second half when the game's a little bit slower, and the opposition are tiring. Everything's happening too fast for him now, and for me, he needs a spell on the bench, and Ardit Nikaj does need a good chance. A geezer will be getting sick of me mentioning Ardit Nikaj and all that, but we're missing an opportunity with him. I noticed and mentioned that the last goal Ardit Nikaj scored, he didn't really celebrate. And I get the feeling that he knows he's not going to get an opportunity at Wisła. I mean, he's only here. He's here on a season long loan. Time it's running out, and this following news also won't help his cause. Although he may have a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Wisła are looking for a second striker to support Angel Radado. It looks like Wisła's number 1 transfer target is Łukasz Zjawiński, a striker at Polonia Warsawa. Well, Wisła, this is what the reporting is saying. Wisła has been closely monitoring him for a year and a half, and according to information, is determined to acquire the player. It's no surprise, really, as Zjawiński is having another excellent season in the First Division. He now has 10 goals in 19 matches. Last season, he found the net 23 times, finishing as the top scorer. Overall, the towering striker has played 94 matches in the First Division, scoring 47 goals and providing 4 assists. Wisła believes it's the perfect place for the player to develop and intends to move forward soon. However, there are no talks on this topic at this time, as they can only begin on January 1st. That's for regulatory reasons. We know what that's all about. It would be ideal for Wisła if Zjawiński joined the club this winter, although that would require an agreement with Polonia, as a player would still be under contract. Wisła don't want to wait too long on this signing though, and if it can't be done in a timely manner or the player wants to go elsewhere, then Wisła will look at other players they have shortlisted. Now, who those other players are, I don't know. I've not heard them mention anybody. Mariusz Jop has repeatedly asked for another striker, and he said the following about Zjawiński. I've said many times that a player with a profile similar to Zjawiński's, tall and good at heading, would be a good option for us. When we play in a positional attack, we don't have much height in the team, especially in offensive positions. A player with that profile would give us significantly more options. This is what we do need. We do need. I've said it repeatedly during games. We need the overlap down both flanks because teams go narrow against Wisła. And the edge of the box, it all gets crowded out. And unless you get that lucky break or somebody switches off, we do struggle to score. We didn't have that problem at the start of the season, but as soon as teams started going narrow against us, holding the edge of the 18-yard box and crowding it out, the goals have started not drying up, but they're not as forthcoming as they were at the start of the season. So if we can get these overlaps because teams go narrow, where there is width down the sides, get the crosses in, the trouble is we don't have the height in the middle. So this would be a great signing for Wisła. Personally, I think this would be a great signing for Wisła if they can get it done. As Jarosław Królewski has said, though, it won't be an easy transfer to do. Right, so for starters, the player knows he's signing for a club where Ronaldo has that striker position. He just does. If he's fit and he's not played, a ridiculous amount of games, he's probably the first name on the team sheet. So he's in effect signing to be second choice on the team sheet. The deal itself is also not straightforward, as the striker is currently under contract with Polonia until the end of this season, and they want to keep their man until then, but they are aware that January will be their last opportunity to cash in. It's a little bit catch-22-ish, isn't it? Wisła intends to capitalise on this situation and plans to submit a substantial offer for the 24-year-old. The deal is expected to offer Polonia a small buyout sum, a high fee percentage of the next transfer fee, and a bonus that will be paid to Polonia if Wisła gain promotion to the Ekstraklasa. Now, it has already been reported that Polonia will not agree to Wisła's terms. And to confirm that, Jarosław Królewski, JK, he put a statement out a couple of days ago saying the following. Wisła Kraków was and still is interested in the transfer of Łukasz Zjawiński, but it will not take place this window. He said, and I quote, Łukasz Zjawiński is a great player, a great person, and one of our top priorities, but he definitely won't be joining Wisła Kraków this round. Will he ever? The future is always unknown. Wisła Kraków, however, won't be making an offer to Polonia, where LZ already has the status of a mini legend. Now, it's also been reported that the 24-year-old is also interested in the Swiss club FC Lausanne Sport. Whether it's a case of all the parties that they're playing games and making out that there's no interest and we'll see who blinks first, or is it a case of this deal really is dead? It's dead in the water, and Wisła are going to have to look elsewhere on this list of players. I mean, all I can say is I guess we'll find out. But as I mentioned earlier, is this the light at the end of the tunnel for Ardit Nikaj? Is that the light that he can now see, now that this deal, in theory, is not going to get done? will he get an opportunity, whether through injury or Marius Jopp seeing sense and dropping Ertlthaler? Hopefully, that is going to be the case. And also, the player is valued at €450,000. So where is that money going to come from? All right, a small fee. Polonia have already said they're not going to work that. Excuse me. So if Wisła do get this deal done, they are definitely going to have to stump up the valuation, aren't they? 450,000. So where is that money coming from? Who knows? Maybe this man does. So, speaking of money, yesterday, Jarosław Królewski, Wisła's owner, he has reported that he's reduced the debt payment that Wisła owes him on a personal. I think they owe him personally. I think he's reduced it by around 5 million zloty, so just over £1 million. It was something to do with reduced interest on a payment. But either way, a big thank you to JK for that. It is a massive help to the club. You know, £1 million or 5 million zloty. I'm going from memory there, but I think that's what it was. That's a lot of money to Wisła. So is that anything to do with a 450,000 signing on fee? I don't know. But he's openly said it's not going to happen in this winter, in this winter break. So who knows? Maybe the two things aren't connected. But it's always interesting at Wisła. And finally, we have got the mid-season friendly matches. They are out. So maybe save a screenshot of these, for future reference. Or hit that subscribe button, ping that notifications bell so you don't need to worry about missing a game. I think all but the last games, I think they're all in Turkey, because that's where Wisła normally have their winter break, isn't it? The last game, though, is being held at Wisła's training ground. Hopefully, I'm going to be in Poland, in Krakow, when that game is played on the 31st of January. So if I can, I think they're going to sell tickets for it. If I can get a ticket, I will, while I'm over there, I will go and do a live stream of that match, if it is possible. So that'd be a good live stream to do, because it's against Stal Mielec as well. So hopefully over the coming towards the end of the off season, Stal Mielec, they might provide us with a test, because they need to improve in the second half of the season. Otherwise, they're going to be getting relegated, back-to-back relegations. They've just dropped down from the Ekstraklasa. They're not having a good season at all. They are really struggling. All that's left for me to say is now, on that note, Merry Christmas from myself, Jimmy James, and of course Frankie James, Geezer, Adrian, Jaden, most popular, all you guys who are in live chat and make it worthwhile doing these streams. Merry Christmas to you all. Hope you enjoy the festivities. I'll be back on Boxing Day for football special. It's a busy day of football. One of the best days of the year, if you're a football fan, that is. So I will be back on Boxing Day with football special. All the goals from around the UK and Europe as they go in. I'm not sure if we'll have an update from Wisła now, because it'll probably go a little bit quiet. So today being Christmas Eve. So yeah, enjoy your Christmas day. Hopefully you'll have a good one. All that's left for me to say is, see you Boxing Day. I am Jimmy James. You're watching Catch It Live First. See you soon. Merry Christmas.